the machine is malfunctioning and we're trying to think our way out of it. In 1961, Marxist philosopher Frantz Fanon wrote, "Each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it." Our mission, it seems, has to do with the mind. My fixation with modern irrationality took root while I was writing a book about cults. It was 2020, and looking into the mechanics of cult-like influence during that year's existential imbroglio cast new light on the many faces of 21st century derangement. Since the new millennium, humanity had built a megamall full of fun and fresh ways to dissociate. Fringe conspiracy theories had gone mainstream. Celebrity worship reached a hallucinatory zenith. Disney adults and MAGA zealots were blackout drunk on nostalgia, drowned in chimeras of the past. These misbeliefs came in a range of flavors, from whimsical to warlike, but one thing was certain: our shared grasp on reality had slipped. The only explanation for this mass head trip that made any sense to me had to do with cognitive biases, a term coined in 1972 by behavioral economists and real-life besties Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. Self-deceptive thought patterns that developed due to our brain's imperfect abilities to process information from the world around us. Social scientists have described hundreds of cognitive biases over the last century, though confirmation bias and the sunk cost fallacy were the two that came up most in my reporting. Perusing just a few of these studies crystallized so much of the zeitgeist's general illogic, like people with master's degrees basing their social calendars on Mercury's position in the cosmos, or our neighbors opting not to get vaccinated because a YouTuber in palazzo pants said it would downgrade their DNA. Cognitive biases also explained scads of my own irrationalities, personal choices I could never justify to myself, like the commitment in my early 20s to stick out a romantic relationship that I knew caused me suffering, or my tendency to engineer online enemies based on conflicts I'd invented. I needed to yank at that thread. I had to understand how these mental magic tricks we play on ourselves combine with information overload like a chemistry experiment gone haywire, Mentos and Diet Coke. Our minds have been fooling themselves since the dawn of human decision-making. The amount of input from the natural world alone was always too much for us to handle. Cataloging the precise color and shape of every twig in order to understand it would take more than a lifetime. So, early brains came up with shortcuts that allowed us to make sense of our environment enough to survive it. The mind has never been perfectly rational, but rather resource rational, aimed at reconciling our finite time, limited memory storage, and distinct craving for events to feel meaningful. Epochs later, the quantity of details to process and decisions to make has exploded like confetti, or shrapnel. We can't hope to mull over every data point as deeply as we might like. So, we tend to rely on our ancestors' clever cheats, which come so naturally to us, we're almost never aware of them. Faced with a sudden glut of information, cognitive biases cause the modern mind to overthink and underthink the wrong things. We obsess unproductively over the same paranoias. Why did Instagram suggest I follow my toxic ex-boss? Does the universe hate me? But we blitz past complex deliberations that deserve more care. I have more than once experienced the disorientation of engaging in some battle of wits online, only to come up for air and feel in my body like I'd been using sparring tactics better suited to a Neolithic predator than a theoretical conversation. I think because we have come so far technologically in the past 100 years, we think that everything is knowable. But that's both so arrogant and so fucking boring, said Jessica Gross, New York Times opinion columnist and author of Screaming on the Inside, The Unsustainability of American Motherhood, in 2023. I've been referring to this era, when we're so swiftly outpacing the psychological illusions that once served us, as the age of magical overthinking. Broadly, magical thinking